Greetings, BArcadians, and welcome to another edition of the BA Gaming News Show with your hosts, me, Tabs, and my good friend, Rich. So, hello, Rich.
How?
God, we're just going to keep riffing on that, aren't we? Trying to come up with funnier ways to say hello. But yeah, please remember, every Friday at 5 PM UK time, smash that like button before we go any further. Make sure you subscribed and ring that bell and tell your friends about it. But yeah, it's been a juicy one this week.
Absolutely.
I think over the last couple of days especially, a lot has come out of the woodwork and there's plenty to discuss. So, bit of a bumper episode. We'll try and condense it as best we can, which is on past performance, won't be good at all. But first of all, Rich, what have we been mostly playing this week? And I say we because...
so obviously, much like last week, we've been playing just loads of Ghost of Tsushima. We've specifically been targeting what we're calling Raid Ready, because the raid has dropped today when you're watching this. I'm not sure, I'm assuming probably by the time you watch this, it will have dropped. I think 3 PM Pacific time, I think, is what I saw.
Sounds right to me, yeah.
Hopefully we're going to get on that tomorrow. Now there is a scenario because you need 4 players to play it, and there's no matchmaking. At the moment we have 3 players in our team.
Yes.
So we are looking for someone else. So if anyone wants to play Raid with us on Ghost of Tsushima, get in the comments and join us on there.
Consider this an official advert. Rich is an assassin, I'm a Ronin.
Yeah.
And I've got some really good healing attributes. So
and our other player is a hunter.
Yeah, beast of a hunter, smashes the kills. So we've got a strong team.
Absolutely, we just need a 4th. So if you are interested, get in touch and you can play with us online. And I like to say, what have you been playing this week, Tabs? But I've sort of covered that off.
Same again. Let's save the time for all these stories we've got to cover.
Absolutely. But take us away.
So, first of all, Cyberpunk Delay Funk. So we've we've seen in Eurogamer, you've probably all seen yourself from CD Projekt Red themselves, but the latest delay is the 3rd change to Cyberpunk 2077's release date this year, having initially been scheduled for release in April before being pushed back to the 17th of September and then the 19th of November. So now they've revealed it's been pushed back another 21 days and is now due to release on the 10th of December. And CD Projekt Red have come out and said that essentially the reason is it's to ensure that Cyberpunk runs well on all platforms, since the game has evolved towards almost being a next-gen title somewhere along the way. It comes as a bit of a shock, I think, because they recently announced that they've gone gold, which I think essentially means it's in a finite state for them to print it to disc.
Absolutely.
And then, but essentially what they're saying here is, in this day and age, that doesn't mean the game's necessarily finished, because they work towards a day 0 patch. So as soon as the game's out, there's a patch that's released with it that'll do other bits.
And we've all seen that. You buy your new game, you get home, you think, I'm going to play it, and then you have to wait 4 hours to install it and download a patch, which is a nightmare, but that seems to be the way it plays out nowadays.
And as is alluded to here, they said because it's evolved into a next-gen title. So clearly, I suppose it's hard. They've had to target multiple generations of multiple consoles. They've obviously been working to a particular sweet spot, perhaps PS4 Pro, perhaps Xbox One, and therefore X, is it? That's the equivalent of the PS4 Pro, I think, isn't it, in Microsoft? Not Series X, Xbox One X.
One X, yeah.
So yeah, perhaps that's the sweet spot, and then obviously they've undercalculated the amount of time they needed to actually optimize it for the current gen consoles, or the launch PS4, the launch Xbox One. So that sounds like what the issue is. Do we fire shots at them? Should they have managed this better? Is it the management to blame here?
I would just like to butt in here and say that the only thing I will say is it's likely that lots of the people working on this are having to work from home. That's what lots of people all around the world are having to do, and we know this has really impacted some of the games developers. I mean, I think I've read an article previously that they were saying it's very hard to button down on stuff because they have to ring someone who's at home but they might not be available. And is that elongating everything? So the time that they thought they had, say they thought they had 3 or 4 months work, well, that's now become 6 months work, and that's what the difficulty is. So it's very difficult. So
the friction of home working, we're essentially saying, is a good way.
A possible cause.
Yeah.
I mean, they've not come out and said that, but I'm just saying that is a possibility.
One thing that I heard that was a little bit concerning was apparently the staff didn't find out about this delay until when it went public.
Ooh.
Almost at the same time anyway.
I mean, that's rough, isn't it? That's not showing, a lot of respect to your staff, given how hard they must be.
We know
working.
they're crunching already and working up to that, and then to suddenly think, oh no, we've got another 21 days of this.
Yeah.
That doesn't ring the best. But
the only thing you'll say on that is the guys and girls that are doing the programming and sorting the problems they've got, they will know that they weren't going to get it done for the November the 19th.
Yeah, so they can breathe a sigh of relief.
In some respects, they'll go, okay, well, that was never going to happen the 19th, so maybe this is a good thing. So, yeah.
The blessing in disguise I would just finish on, for gamers at least, is, well, it was already coming out at launch of next-gen consoles. Now we've got some time to breathe, to enjoy some other games there without actually thinking, because personally I was in a dilemma. I really want to play Cyberpunk. And I was going to forego all the next-gen, play it on my laptop.
Yeah.
So now I know that they're separated and I can just kind of take a breath and just enjoy the launch and all the kind of excitement around that and the new hardware. So, silver lining of stuff.
Interestingly though, and you were recommended by, was it someone who
Alex Battaglia, Digital Foundry.
Yeah, I thought so.
I tweeted him and he tweeted me back, bless him. And he said, stick with the laptop version in terms of getting the best from the experience. We know there's going to be a next gen patch next year, but day one PC, I think you're going to be able to hit the the upper echelons of what it can do.
But is that skewed now by the fact that they're now saying that it's basically more skewed towards next gen now, rather than previously it was a current gen game? They're almost saying it's a next gen game now that they're having to try and make work on current gen.
I think that's more to do with where they're targeted.
Right. Okay.
I think PC will be ready to go.
Okay.
And then I think PS4 Pro, Xbox One X will be very easily optimized for, and then it's the issue with scaling it to the launch consoles. But
so you're still
let us know what
PC.
you think. I'm still very much in the laptop domain. Yeah, I feel like that's going to be the best possible experience for me. Maybe the next gen patch next year will bring it up to scratch with that, but I want to play it as soon as it's out.
What a world we're living in now. The best way for you to play this amazing game that's coming out is on a portable laptop.
It's amazing.
Crazy.
Technology has come very far. But Rich, we've gone on far too long. Sacked. We're both sacked. No, take us away on the next story,
Right,
please.
so moving on, we are talking Dualsense Dually Next Gen. Exciting. Let's find out. So Skill Up, someone I know you hold in high regard from the YouTube, had this to say: let me put it this way, there are 2 next-gen consoles releasing next month, but only one has a next-gen controller. The hashtag Dualsense is that good. Hashtag PlayStation 5. And I believe he posted that on his Twitter, didn't he, Tabs?
He did indeed, yeah. You didn't do it in, I think he's Australian. You should have done it in Australian.
I just didn't want to butcher that accent. So yeah, it sounds like from everything we were hearing that there is some amazing things coming for the DualSense controller. Eurogamer's John Lineman had this to say: but the next gen factor comes down to the feedback. It starts with adaptive triggers. Essentially, the controller can apply variable levels of resistance to the triggers, which change the feel and tension required to pull them. During Astro Boy's playroom, the jumps into a spring suit, for want of a better name, with the control system switching up accordingly. You pull the trigger to charge it up and let go to spring away. The way these triggers can vary resistance so dramatically based on their current performed action really surprised me. It has the same sense of force you might get from a force feedback steering wheel, and it applies to triggers. Wow, that's incredible.
Do you want me to read on just to share this with you a little bit?
Go for it.
So we've seen something, this is again John Lineman in Eurogamer. So we've seen something like this with HD Rumble on Switch, but quite frankly, this feels like a next generation attempt at it. The level of precision and possible variations is simply unreal. Moving the controller around, the developers really give you the impression of a physical object rolling around inside the pad. There are so many subtle vibrations and sensations that it's almost difficult to describe. You can genuinely feel the difference in Astrobot's footsteps depending on the surface he's walking across. And finally, Rich, do you want to take us over that last little section?
Oh, hang on a sec. And this is why Astro Bot is such a great match for the PS5. It plays beautifully and it imbued with the same level of creativity and I'll start that again. It plays beautifully and is imbued with the same level of creativity you expect from
Asobi team.
Team. But it also showcases each function of the controller in a way that immediately makes sense. It's the best introduction to a new system since Wii Sports, honestly.
So I appreciate that was a lengthy monologue, but I thought it really did encapsulate well why this is such a big deal.
So what we're saying is the haptic feedback is incredible, but it's not just that. It's also the fact that the HD Rumble is actually a thing, because it's not a thing in the Switch, despite what everyone says. It just seems like normal Rumble. I don't get that. But it sounds like this is really, I don't know what they've got inside there, but it really seems to work. It's really
They've taken it to another level. And again, it does depend on the uptake from developers, because like we've seen with a few of Sony's aspirational features on the PS5, that's going to put more stress and strain on developers, and it's whether they decide that the investment is worthwhile. But from what people are saying, hopefully it reaches beyond gimmickry. Yeah. But it really does add, a third dimension to the gaming experience. Being able to, on a platform game like this, feel the kind of the texture of the where your avatar is adventuring. It just sounds amazing.
I think this is one of those things where the sky's the limit. What are we going to see coming down? It's like this is a proper generational leap. This is something we never had in the current generation. It's something that's properly technology being brought into the next generation. And I'm really excited to see what people do about it. I'm excited to see, like games, driving games. How's that going to factor in? Is it going to feel? You're going to really feel
the grit.
I was reading about Gran Turismo that the haptic feedback makes every single car, both brakes and acceleration on the controller, feel completely different, which is really interesting. I mean, I personally play it on a steering wheel nowadays, so I'm not sure that will cross over as well. But it's so interesting to see what's going to happen moving forward with this, and I'm really, really excited.
This is it, yeah. I think it's.
You have to say, are we going to see Microsoft try and, replicate this down the line with something similar?
If it's successful, I'm sure they will. That's the way these things go. I mean, PlayStation Studios, we know they have a number of studios in their pocket who make brilliant games. Surely they will be enforced to utilise this in their games, and that will be. If they can demonstrate it well, if they can get the buy-in from the audience, it will just become a thing.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed, because this is exciting, isn't it?
Absolutely.
We love fancy graphics and whatever, but this is really exciting in terms of innovation. But shall I carry us on? So
absolutely.
Halo infinitely losing staff.
Oh dear.
So a report in Bloomberg came out earlier this week, I think spearheaded by Jason Schreier. Turbulence continues on Microsoft Corporation, Halo Infinite video game, with the departure of the project's director. Chris Lee, who oversaw production of Halo Infinite at 343 Industries, which is developing the game for Microsoft, is no longer working on it, he confirmed to Bloomberg News on Wednesday. Lee is the second top director on the project to leave in the past 2 years. The development of Halo Infinite has been rocky. In August 2019, 343 Industries lost its creative director Tim Longo and executive producer Mary Olsen. At the time, the company said the overall creative vision and production of the game remains led by Chris Lee. But of course, he's now left, as we found out. The game was delayed in early August following poor fan reception to an early public version, and Lee's role was sidelined a few weeks later as Microsoft brought in Halo veteran Joe Staten to lead the single-player campaign and another senior executive, Pierre Hintz, to run multiplayer. So Rich seems to confirm a lot of our thoughts on what has been a development hell for Halo Infinite.
Absolutely. Anyone that's watched the news over the last sort of few months will know that we've talked at length about the problems that are going on with Halo Infinite and the fact that it's just not up to scratch. I have to say though, I don't think this has been delayed because of the fan feedback that it looked a bit rubbish. This was always going to, surely that no one at Microsoft,
if you were working on it, surely
no one at Microsoft thought that looked good. No one
we're coming in hot.
Yeah, no one at Microsoft. It's impossible. So while I agree that they have adapted and moved differently because of the fan feedback on this, I think this was always going to happen. It was in such trouble that this was always going to happen. Even if the fans said, oh yeah, it looks good, I still think they would have gone, yeah, this looks crap. You know?
Yeah.
Especially with some of the other things games we're seeing, not just on PlayStation 5, but also that we're seeing on Xbox Series X. They look better than it. So, you know, by their own yardstick, you know, they should know they didn't look good. But I think this speaks volumes about how much trouble this game really is in. You know, it is obviously in so much trouble that some people have had to come in and go, we need to shake things up.
Course correct.
Yeah, we need to. And I think this could go on for a while. I don't think we're going to see this early part of next year. I think we're going to see this a year's time, maybe 18 months' time. I think there's too much going on here. You know, we've got new staff coming in. You know, there's obviously a lot of things they need to overhaul. From what we've heard, the code in the game is completely ruined to the point where changing anything in there is difficult to do, you know.
I'm just excited. This is the sort of stuff that movies get made out of. You know, I think we will see books written, documentaries, and I'm really excited to see what is the real story going on here. Jason Schreier, I'm sure, is putting together, you know, archives of gossip about what is actually going on, and I'm excited to see, because, you know, for such a big company like Microsoft, this should never have been allowed to happen. With their industry expertise, knowledge, experience, it's an absolute shocker.
Someone, and it might be a collective of people, have run amok here, haven't they? And it's been led down a path that is, as ultimately right now unsuccessful in what their end goal would be. And they're now having, as you've quite rightly put, they're under course correct significantly now, with big heads rolling. And that's obviously the only way that Microsoft can see that they can get this project back on the right path. So very, very, I'd say sad news, but I think this is good news for Halo as a game, because ultimately, you know, Halo is a franchise loved by people the world over, and we don't want that franchise to
fall on hard times,
whimper away. You know, we don't want this to be the last one because it's a bit naff. We want this to be the best Halo ever, and hopefully these decisions that they're making now is going to ensure that we are going to get the best Halo ever.
I want to play it. So yeah, let us know your thoughts though, Barcadians, as ever. And Rich, take us away on the last story.
Absolutely. So Nintendo Switch. So Switch cloudy with a chance of streaming. So Nintendo drops a, unannounced as far as I'm aware, partner direct this week. And as part of that was quite a few interesting bits and bobs. Part and parcel of that was an announcement of a streaming thing. And Den of Geek had this to say: leave it Nintendo to use a previously unannounced Nintendo Direct presentation to reveal that Control and Hitman 3 are coming to Nintendo Switch via a cloud streaming service. Interesting. While these aren't the first Nintendo Switch games to support cloud technology, see Resident Evil 7 and Assassin's Creed Odyssey beat them to the punch, obviously only in Japan. Previously users of this concept were seen as a dry run to attest to bigger things to come. Well, it certainly feels like that's what's happening right now. So what does this mean for the future of Switch? Well, it's hard to say what this is going to mean, but Peter Schneider?
Not quite. It's pronounced Per Schneider. He's German. He's the general manager of IGN.
Interesting.
He tweeted.
Apologies for my
sorry, Per.
misread completely. Control and Hitman are the chosen test games for Nintendo's Switch cloud service in the West. Will we see a proper service launch next year, or even a Switch 5G model? I hope so.
You've been banging on about that.
I think that's going to be a thing, I really do. Or a Pro with better Wi-Fi hardware. Interesting. Reset Era had this to say: Resident Evil 3 cloud version with Nintendo Switch data mined in Control cloud version. That's really interesting.
Yeah, so basically there's somebody's data mined the Control cloud version on the Switch, and they seem to suggest that Resident Evil 3 is to come up on the...
Which would be really interesting. Anyone that doesn't have a current generation console, who basically doesn't have access to Resident Evil 3, that's going to be cool if that does come to Switch as part of this cloud gaming. I think this is interesting. I think this is just Nintendo sort of moving with the times. We know this is a thing moving forwards. They've obviously tested this with Resident Evil 7 in Japan. to obviously some success, given the fact that they're now moving forward with this in other veins. What do you make of this, Tubbs?
Yeah, I saw a short video online. Was it Nintendo Life? I think maybe a chap on there was demoing it. It seemed to run really well. You can even go as high as having ray tracing options on there. I don't know quite what the PC level comparison is, but it certainly reaches well above what the Switch can achieve natively. So, I mean, the cloud streaming generally, it just doesn't work with me. I don't like it. But if this is a way for Nintendo to keep the relevance in the market, using the Switch as a conduit for these cloud services, and they can nail it down to a degree that it works successfully, well then, it's good for gamers, isn't it?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? So this potentially could allow the Switch to play games that wouldn't run on a Switch. That's, because we know the Switch has Wi-Fi, and as long as you've got good internet, potentially you can play games, potentially even next-gen games on the Switch, albeit, I don't know, is the screen on a Switch, is that HD?
720p,
720p, yeah. So sort of then.
I mean, it works for Nintendo because they love to not spend money on hardware, so they can just continue on with this Tegra X1 chip, and all they have to do is upgrade the Wi-Fi capabilities, to basically manage this streaming service. And the world seems to be pivoting towards that. So it all makes sense on paper. Do I like it personally? Perhaps not, but we'll have to wait and see. Let us know, BArcadians, as ever. What do you think, though? And Rich, finally, shoot from the hip. Everything else, kick us off.
So, Watch Dogs Legions, or Legion? Is it Legions? We have had this before.
We said this last week. Whatever it is, you know what we mean.
It currently sits at 78 on Metacritic. So, yeah, sort of run-of-the-mill game. I think this looks a bit samey to me. I probably won't be buying this.
No, I'm not going to be buying it personally, but, people have said good things. Go and check it out. Hyrule Warriors demo was announced and is available now as part of this kind of mystery direct that Richard mentioned. I think we're going to try and fit it in somewhere, but there's a lot of buzz around that game, so I think I need to get my teeth into it. But yeah, Rich.
I don't think you've ever called me Richard before.
Have I not? Let's call you Richard.
That's just happened. So, Switch Pro mini LED rumours. So this is the suggestion that the Switch Pro, if it's a thing, apparently it is, that's what the rumours seem to suggest. It's not going to be OLED because it's going to be too expensive, so they're thinking they're going to run mini LED, which you can get lots of the
OLED benefits, essentially. Battery life and also, darker blacks.
So you essentially can get OLED at the fraction of the price, basically, which, that sounds like Nintendo to me.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a little blurb that full RDNA 2 integration is for Xbox only in the AMD's GPUs. We know that both the PS5 and the Xbox Series X and S utilise those. But we don't know quite what the detail is on this, but they're suggesting the RDNA 2 capabilities are only fully integrated on the Xbox.
Yeah, so the suite of things that can be done. It's very strange. It's almost smoke and mirrors this. It's like a statement, but no one's clarified what it means. So it's a bit of a weird one. But
could be just marketing spin, so we'll take it with a pinch of salt. Richard.
And spoiler warning from earlier on in the video, Ghost of Tsushima's raid launches today. If you are part of that, get on it, get it downloaded.
Let us know what character you are. Come and join our
come and join us.
And then finally, FF16's lead character will be called Clive.
Hilarious.
We thought was a brilliant way to end this show. It is really funny, but I'd have to say the character art generally, and the art generally on FF16 is looking absolutely fabulous. So
I've not seen this. I need to get on this.
Yeah, holding out hope that it's going to be something special. But thank you, BArcadians. I think this is probably going to be the longest one we've ever done, Rich, isn't it? But
not quite.
Not quite. But thanks for joining us. I hope that was reasonably coherent. I think we're both feeling tired at the end of this.
I'd like to apologise for the amount of missteps I've done in this.
No, don't worry. I think the BArcadians will understand. But yeah, BArcadians, as ever, we'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. Smash that like button, make sure you subbed, ring the bell, do all the good stuff, and we'll see you on next week, hopefully, Friday at 5 PM. And I think, Rich, that's another one for the archives.
Indeed. Stamped and completed.